my whole life, my job, what I've been paid to do is to be a community organizer, right? Which some people would say is the wrong way of doing it, you know, like actually that you shouldn't be paid to be a community organizer. Real community organizer is not doing that. And, you know, I think that we wrestled with that in Freedom Side, and we kind of continue to wrestle with that, because I think often about my mentors, you know, one of my mentors, Caroline Murray, who organized with, you know, kind of out of the Alinsky School for a really long time in Massachusetts. She told me, you know, the movement is there for you until you're not working for the movement anymore. And then the movement's not going to make sure that you get taken care of as you get older. The movement's not going to make sure that if you go to the hospital that you pay that bill. And, you know, when she told me that, I was like, really? First of all, I was so young, I couldn't even imagine like being old and needing care. And then also it was like, oh no, of course they will be, but actually no, because you need an apparatus, right? That's like sending you the check to pay the hospital, right? I began, as I grew older, as I take care of my own, you know, aging family members, you know, as we all age more, I more fully understand the wisdom that she was bestowing on me in that moment. And, you know, in Freedom Side, we were all volunteer. So even if we were being paid at our jobs, there was nothing about Freedom Side, and we were raising money from the community. You know, I remember maxing out my credit card for Freedom Side, and you know, I will never forget. I went to Jackson, Mississippi for the 50th anniversary of SNCC, and we were staying at like a Days Inn, and I would say it was very much of the community. Many of the folks that we were with, they lived at the Days Inn, and we made like hundreds of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to feed all of our group. And basically we realized we didn't have enough food for everybody. So we did like a quick collection, and Nalini, who kind of led Freedom Side, we didn't, you know, it was very in vogue not to have one leader, but she was kind of in charge. And she was like, well, we're coming up short. Okay, and she put at that time what felt like an astronomical amount of money in. And I was like, where are you getting this money? Now I know Freedom Side is not really paying. She was only paid Saffron. I would use paid very loosely. And she was like, well, this is my rent money. And I just like, I'll never forget. I'm like, well, what are we going to do with rent? We're going to do another collection? Like, I don't, you know, so it was real grassroots. It was super bare bones. We were constantly trying to raise money. We were raising money online, you know, a little bit at a time. We were constantly like asking people for money, just like, you know, and I was coming from, frankly, a place of relative privilege, because I had a good union job at that time. I was working at the AFL-CIO. So I was making the best money I'd ever made in my whole life. I mean, I was making the best money in my whole family, ever in our history had been made. You know, I had great health care. At the time, all I wanted to do was make it long enough at the AFL that I could get my pension a little bit vested, which, like, there's no jobs with pensions anymore. Like, that was why I was so focused on it. Where else can you get that? Only at the union these days. So, you know, I had a credit card to max out, right? Which was different than some of the other folks that we were, you know, talking about. So for sure, it really shaped how I thought about like resources, what the community is capable of in giving resources, and frankly, what you could ask the community for in terms of resources, because we were constantly just relying on the generosity of the community and their investment in the change that we were trying to make as of this vehicle. And it was hard. It's really hard to do stuff without money. We live in a capitalist society, so it takes money to do stuff. We were traveling all over, and we were bringing, you know, young people there, and we're bunking up like 10 to a hotel room and stuff. And it was fun. I would do it again. But it did really teach me, like, how do you match the resources to the plan and the people that you have? I think as we think about long-term sustainability in our movements, it's really key to like think about that. Because of that, I feel like I became very clear that I needed to gain the skill of raising money from the community, from, you know, now, of course, high dollar donors is like a huge part of how people raise money, foundations and things like that. And I was really lucky because we did digital, and in digital, you can ask the community directly for money. You can raise community money directly from the community. So it's incredible to have that skill and then also be able to go out and raise money from wealthy folks, and they should be giving us their money anyway. So for LMN, I'm very proud to say we are the largest capital raised by a Latina-owned media company, actually by a Latina-owned startup in the history of the United States. We raised $80 million to launch our company. And I'm very proud of that. I feel incredible that we've been able to put that stake in the ground of our communities deserve that, our communities need that. 2 young Latinas can be the people who are the stewards and kind of trustees of that. And again, we live in a capitalist society, so it means that our company is valuated at hundreds of millions of dollars as we start. The expectation for our company is that we would make a lot of money, and we do need to make a lot of money because I owe a lot of money now to our investors. It's not, it's my money now, but it didn't start as my money. And so now I gotta be successful, right? And as an anti-capitalist, as a person who spent my whole life as a workers' rights organizer, directly before this, I was working with the domestic workers, okay? So I feel a real contradiction of this moment. And at the same time, I do think that because of who our audience is, Spanish and very Latino, and in Latino communities, majority Latino communities, in some ways, making money from that community is really important to me. I don't want to abandon that part of the community and get a younger, more upwardly mobile, more educated, more money. I want to raise money from domestic workers and the lawn guys and the construction workers because that is part of how I'll know that we're really literally ears to the ground with them, but also that they're invested in what we have to offer. I want them to be invested in what we have to offer, and I want our content to speak to them. One of the